Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about 7 Seconds, Season 1, Episode 1. It is simply called Pilot, which is actually really weird because this is a Netflix show and they don't typically have pilots per se. And I assume this was just ordered to series like most Netflix shows, so they just called it Pilot out of tradition.
I see. I always hate when they do that. It feels kind of lazy. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we'll just call it pilot. Then we don't have to think of a name.
I guess it's the way of saying it's self-titled. Like, we just wanted to call the first episode 7 Seconds, but you don't do that, so it's called Pilot.
Yeah.
I guess that's the thinking. But yeah, so this is the new Netflix show. It started on Friday. Normally we get in there on Friday with these new shows reviews. This was supposed to be Monday. We got pushed back a couple of days. We had a movie on Netflix on Friday, which is why we didn't do it on Friday. A movie that we were looking forward to and then hated. So that was unfortunate. We'd have been better watching this probably. But yeah, so this is 7 Seconds. This we'll start spoiler free because it is in episode 1. Obviously, if we do episodes beyond episode 1, we just do spoilers the whole time. But this is a show where a kid is run over, a black kid is run over by a white cop. And there's a sort of cover up on the cop side, and then the parents find out, and I think the show goes into more of a sort of all out legal battle as to like who's responsible and hunting it down. This first episode doesn't quite get to a lot of that per se. This first episode is setting things up. This first episode is setting up the incident itself, the characters, and kind of the initial shock of the show. It is very much here's the incident episode, and then everything else is going to be the fallout and the investigation and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it. That's the premise of the show. So I suppose I'll ask the question: did you enjoy the first episode of 7 Seconds?
Somewhat. I think technically it's very competent, and what it's doing is fine.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't see much to really set it apart from a lot of other TV.
That's fair. It's funny because I like that word competent. It's very competent, like, and specifically because you said the direction, right, and the way it's the style, the way it's shot. There's a couple of nice ideas here or there direction, but I couldn't help but think as I was watching it because it started off with the impact, and you know it's this slow sort of tension as he realizes what's happened, and he's like checking things, and he phones someone, and stuff happens. And I couldn't help but feel like throughout that, and then scenes where the parents find out that something's happened, or the scenes where the lawyer character has to come and speak to them for the first time. There was so many scenes where I couldn't help but feel like, under better direction, these could all be fantastic scenes. And they're not bad; they're all fine.
They're all like, yeah, okay, this is pretty good, I suppose.
They're not doing anything wrong. They're all kind of working for what they're supposed to be. I do know that just from just glancing at like opinions about the whole season that this apparently has the this is too long problem
Oh God.
that Netflix has. The one head I think it was Variety review. I didn't read the review. I just saw the tweet, and the headline was something like, "Oh, 7 Seconds needs less time, not more," or something like that. It was like, "Yep, I know how that's going to go then."
Yeah, that makes me go, okay, it's a Netflix show.
Because the thing is, I don't think, and this is the problem with the shows that have that problem, it's never as apparent in the first episode or two. Especially in a show like this, where it's like the incident, and then we start dealing with it afterwards.
It's because you go, okay, it's a slow build. It's doing it's
Yeah.
it's slow burn thing, and I'm like, okay. It's only when you get to like episode 6, 7 out of 10 maybe that you're like,
This is a slog now, yeah.
it's like, okay, well, now it needs to really be moving, and it's just not.
Now, of course, like, this is just hearsay, what I've heard from other sources and whatnot, so we can't criticise that in this particular
No.
discussion. But I think the reason why I bring it up is because I'm getting that vibe from it, where I'm like, I can kind of see how this is going to drag once
Yeah.
it gets going into the investigation. But like I said, there is nice ideas, and obviously I think some of the cast are pretty good, as particularly the parents. Of course, we know Regina King from The Leftovers. She was good in that. She's good in this as well. There's a few good cast members. There's one or two. My problems with the episode though, beyond maybe it just not being excellent enough, because obviously, like there's some concepts where like I like it almost no matter what. It has to be bad for me not to be into it. But then there's some concepts like this where this is going to have to be really good to keep my attention in it, because I'm not necessarily inherently excited by, oh, someone's knocked down, there's a legal battle, and they're trying to prove who did it. Like, that
Yeah.
on its own does not excite me. But with the right writing and direction, it could be excellent.
It has to prove itself though, doesn't it?
Yeah. And basically what this episode did is it proved, oh, it's not a bad show, but it's not necessarily proving to me that, oh, I'm excited about the outcome. But my real complaint would be, though, I do think there's one or two kind of cliched elements that feel a bit on the nose. In particular, the lawyer character played by Clare-Hope Ashiti, she plays KJ Harper, the lawyer character. I actually didn't. Maybe it was in the trailer and I forgot, because I saw the trailer like a couple months ago when they put the trailer out, and maybe I just forgot this. But I did not know that she was a raging drunk, and that was like her character.
No, I didn't either.
Like every single scene with her in this episode is like she's like sneaking little drinks of like little bottles, and she's got things hidden in places, and she's making a mess of herself in court in front of a judge and all the rest of it. And there was a point where I was going, you know what? I'd like some subtlety with this plot. I feel like it's just shoving it in my face constantly.
Do you know what the problem is? At least right now, I don't know what it's adding. I mean, I get, okay, she's going to have an arc where over the season she stops being like this.
Yeah.
She becomes more responsible. But I don't know. It feels a bit much like, okay, what's it doing here in the first episode about the incident? I get you want to tell me who she is, but there's so much of it that it's just unnecessary.
I feel like you have her show up, you have her, you know, do the case thing she's supposed to do with the parents and whatnot, and just have like a small hint, like have her just make a little mistake. Or something.
That's what I say. You don't need to see any drinking, but you know, at the scene where she shows up at the courtroom early on, it's like her introduction.
Yeah.
And she hasn't got her papers in order. She's like, oh, and they kind of like just laugh her off.
Yeah. Give us that. Give us, or maybe make a small mistake in front of the parents, because that feels especially bad. Because you know these parents are losing their kid or whatever, and like she's messing around and she's not taking this seriously, or you know, like there's definitely ways to do it. I think, but every single scene she was like downing more drink every time like someone had their back turned.
Yeah,
it was almost comical to a point where it was like a cartoon. Every time, you know, it was almost like, you know, every time like the you know, the Roadrunner was just not looking Wile E. Coyote, he's just doing a little trap.
It was like she was playing a challenge. It was like, oh, I wonder if I can get away with it this time.
Yeah.
See how long she can go till she gets caught.
But that was the weird thing, is everyone just seems to kind of know and tell. Like everyone she interacts with is just kind of like knowing that's who she is, and
yeah, I mean she doesn't really hide it that well, does she?
No, and obviously there's some hints in the episode of like maybe how she got here, that she used to take a specific type of case and it's really kind of messed her up, and she and that's all fine. It's all fine. It's just a little bit on the nose. And again, I think with something like this, where like I can imagine like scenes like this in something like Better Call Saul, and I can imagine being on the edge, because I mean again we're dealing with a lawyer for a start, and I can imagine Saul, who's a pretty goofy character in general, going to a case where he has to talk to these parents who have, you know, just found out their kid's been in this horrible accident, and there's someone responsible as well, and I can see that scene playing out with him being a bit of an idiot because he's Saul, but it hit really landing hard, and like maybe showing, you know, either some heart from him because he kind of pulls through for them in a moment, because he's a very good people person. That's a different character, of course, but I think yeah, go on.
You know, you mentioned Better Call Saul, and you know that often plays with a lot of ideas with the legal drama of it. And I think the difference here is I don't think the writing's necessarily bad here, or you know, obviously the writing in Saul is very good. I don't think this is quite as good, but honestly, like I say, it's the direction that lets it down. Whereas Saul always goes above and beyond and even the simplest of scenes. Yeah. Whereas this here, even in its big scenes, it feels like okay, you're doing fine.
Yeah, there's one directorial touch that I really like. I can't talk about it till spoilers, but there's one little touch that I actually thought was really effective.
Okay, that's fair.
But typically, yeah, it's a very competent direction, and I think for us, certainly me, but I think us, both of us, I think for this premise to really hold us, it was going to need to actually hit us with really strong emotional scenes, and they get there to a point because the acting is pretty good. For the parents, especially, I mentioned the parents are really good. Their reactions to stuff works quite well. There's an introduction scene to them, especially Latrice, the mother. She's a school teacher, and you see her helping a kid, you know, find her brother, like for the first chunk of the episode. It's like, oh, she cares. She doesn't have to do this, but she's going out of her way to help these kids because she cares about people around her. And it's like, okay, we're setting her up as a decent person, and we don't necessarily need to do that, but it helps a little bit, because when like her world starts falling apart, you feel just a little bit more bad for her, because she's a person to us now, because we've seen her do something nice for someone else. So there's some good touches in there.
I
from
think
that.
this is a show that if you like this sort of show, inherently, you know how you say, oh, there's some premises for us that it has to be bad for us to not like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's shows like Altered Carbon where we got through that entire thing, when realistically, from the quality, we should have probably dropped it after a couple.
Right, exactly. I feel like for a lot of people, if you like this sort of show, yeah, you'll probably enjoy this. You're
I think
safe to
so.
watch through it.
Yeah, it
But
seems
if
like
you're like us, then maybe not.
it seems like a solid show. Again, if you like this type of thing, but I don't think it's necessarily. And honestly, obviously, it's playing with the whole the black kid, white cop, and that's why his other like sort of co-workers are like, no, you can't tell anyone because this is like, you'll be crucified for this because of the media
Yeah,
now.
but they won't see it as accidental. Like
Yeah.
it actually is accidental.
Actually, yeah, I mean, we see enough of it to know that it is completely 100% accidental. And the first thing that goes wrong is he doesn't just immediately call up the ambulance and like report it in, say what happened here. Because
Yeah.
this is the thing, like on top of like, because I think from the trailer I assumed, was he drinking or something? Is there a reason why it's already criminal? But he's actually just driving on a really snowy road and he loses control of the car. It's actually the most
No, it
straightforward
is. It's
thing ever.
completely understandable, isn't it? And it's horrific, but it's every day. It's in a sad way, like it's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
this is gonna happen at some point.
But yeah, it's the choices that are made after that are the villainous choices.
Yeah, it's he gets coerced into it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
And it's an awkward thing for his character because he's kind of a dick to everyone anyway, so it's hard to kind of like him just on a base level. But the fact that he goes along with it, it's like, okay, he's a little bit more sympathetic because he's guilty. He feels guilty. That's a big part of his character. He feels guilty. He doesn't want to lie. He feels really guilty about it. But it's impossible to be kind of like remotely on his side because, well, you still kind of went along with it. It's one of these things where I don't care enough about you as a person that before you made this mistake that I'm in any way with you. Because obviously, again, to go back to Better Call Saul or even to a greater extent Breaking Bad, right? Where you have the character Walter White who is likable quite a bit for a long time, and then eventually there's the turn. There's this gradual progression over the show to a darker side. Right, and I'll leave it there for spoiler's sake if you've not seen the show. But by the time you get there, you're so invested and you know his entire history that the motivations for what he's doing are fascinating, and everything still dramatically works because you're invested in him as a character, as a person. Yeah. Whereas here we start immediately and we're already in the shit, which can work depending on what you're doing with the character. But I think here, where clearly his character is going to be the one struggling with the guilt and trying to what to do, right or wrong. It feels like very manufactured, kind of like bittersweet sympathy.
I
they're
get
going for.
that they start with the incident, like that's the opening of the episode.
Which I think smart.
No, see, this is the thing. In some ways, I think it is because it's okay. It's shocking. You pull you in with the shock factor of okay, this is what this is about.
To me, it's I mean, obviously the show's nothing like it, but to me, it's very Twin Peaks. You start with the
the inciting incident.
Twin Peaks starts with finding that body, and that's what the entire plot.
No, again, it's tried and tested. I can't really argue with that. But here, when it's this character, I feel like I could have done with some scenes before the incident of okay, who is this character? Maybe some of the other scenes that we had before driving around trying to find the brother. Shove those before the incident, perhaps, and throw in an extra scene or two of the character who actually has the accident. And, maybe then we can get to know him a bit more first so that when he does feel guilty, we're not just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Do you know, I almost think you almost have a full episode of him and it ends with the accident. But then I go, but what would it be about? I have no idea.
No, that's the thing. I think like half of this episode you can shuffle around to be before the accident. Like the stuff with the lawyer in the courtroom, the stuff with the mother going around looking for the kids. All this stuff, you can play that beforehand, no problem. And you can build up to the accident.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've got. Well, let's give the spoiler warning because the one reason I have against it is kind of one of the things I like about the episode from a stylistic point of view. It's just a simple little choice that was made that I really liked. Is that during this is kind of where maybe having build up to the accident would maybe. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have to, but I think if you had time before the accident, there'd be an expectation to see the son who's hit, right, before it happens. And I actually think there's a really smart choice made in this episode to not see him at the scene of the accident. We don't see him in the hospital bed, not until the very end of the episode, or towards the end of the episode, where the lawyer works up the courage to actually look at him, because she can't look at him. Because before that, it was working for me, because I'm like, well, yeah, he's not really a character to us. He's just he's the idea of this kid.
Yeah,
and I think that works well in the terms of what the show's doing, because it wants to analyze this tension in the in the culture between the white cops, the black kids that keep getting shot. It's wanting to look at that, and it's wanting to look at the air of like tension that's going on because of that. And the idea that this kid's not a character, he's an idea. He's just the idea which the debate's going to revolve around. That's actually, I thought, okay, that kind of works, because like obviously we're going to have the parents, we're going to have all these other characters that are connected to him, but he himself is not necessarily a character in and of himself. That said, though, when it actually builds up to like, okay, this was, I think they could have maybe built it up better that she was refusing to look at him, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't quite get it until it was like in the moment, and then it was a big deal. I was like, oh, okay.
But the moment itself works quite well, where she sees him in the reflection, she actually turns and looks at him, and it's kind of like she's been, you get the whole thing, she's been avoiding all her responsibility, she's been taking the shitty cases because she doesn't want to be connected to anything important, because presumably she messed up something bad somewhere. And
most likely.
She, but she takes, she sort of, like she looks at him, and the episode actually ends with her going out to the scene to see and there's like blood all over the snow, and it's just the shocking moment, and then we get the really cheesy final shot where the camera comes down and we see the Statue of Liberty in the frame with the blood in the foreground.
Yeah, I didn't really need that.
I knew it was going to be there though, because it was in the trailer.
Okay, I didn't recall it, because it's like it's been a long time since I watched the trailer.
The one thing I remember from the trailer was that moment, because all the posters are all her standing in the snow looking at the scene. So like I remember in the trailer that moment where you see the statue. It was a whole thing. I don't know if you saw the statue itself in the...
I don't recall the statue, is the thing. I remember her standing in the snow with the blood.
But when it happened, I wasn't surprised. I was like, yep. I was expecting that.
I get it.
So, that's the one touch that I really like. I like the idea of not seeing him until that moment.
I agree, that was a strong choice.
I think if she's meant to be our core character, though, if she's the one who we are rooting for to kind of get over our demons and like win this fight and prove that there's something shady going on here. And there's that one moment where she points out the discrepancy. Like, oh, they said this scapegoat that the other cops have like sort of set up for the crime. It's like, oh, they said they caught him like driving around here, but his seat was like turned all the way back. Like, how do you drive if you're lying down? Like, she has that discrepancy, and even this other guy who's like this detective who's there to like just basically just fill some paperwork and make sure the belongings get back to the parents and whatever. He's kind of there, and he just like, you know what, some things are better left just, she's dead, like he's dead, and he's not really dead. He's actually in the hospital bed fighting for his life.
That's something that threw me, because I actually thought the premise of the show was that the kid's dead and they cover it up.
As did I. Yeah,
I thought that's what it was for a long time.
I was unaware of that, which I guess means that by the end of the season he could wake up. That's a possibility.
It could. But it threw me, because obviously when the other cops show up and they're like, oh, he's dead already, there's no point, we'll just cover it up because he's dead. I was like, yeah, okay.
But actually, to be fair, I was the same. I was like, yeah, I think that's the premise of the show, so I expected that. Later on, though, when Peter, the cop who hit him, finds out though that he was alive that whole time, and he could have called an ambulance and like maybe helped better. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have mattered at all, but it could have. Like that was probably the one time where I felt like it just emotionally it made sense. Like, the hit of guilt that he got. It was like, okay, I understand that. I understand that feeling. And then later on, I liked when the parents were like, when they find out and like, oh, why did you only call us a couple hours ago? And it's like, oh, because that's when we found him. And they're like, wait, he was lying out there for hours in pain, dying.
Yeah.
And no one found him but a dog. Like, that scene was kind of, and again, that's going back to the parents being really effective, and that scene, their acting was great.
No, definitely, they are strong. I do wonder, because obviously we both thought that, okay, the kid was dead. Mm-hmm. Did Netflix tell us that? Like, was that all what we were told, so that when we'd go along with this as well, so that when you get to this moment of, oh, he's actually not dead, it's supposed to be more effective? I can't remember if they flat out said he was dead, or if the wording was just always just right that we assumed he was dead. Yeah, that we assumed that, because like I said, because that was just in my mind as like, okay, that's the premise. Yeah.
But I wonder if our heads, just with some time, have just kind of retrofitted it to the obvious thing.
Exactly. I'm not entirely sure
It's
anymore.
entirely possible. Yeah, I don't know. And you can tell it's going to explore some of those ideas. There's a moment with the cop that's come sort of begrudgingly, or lawyers begrudgingly come with this cop, and he makes like this really like racist comment to like, he kind of implies the kid was probably in the park because he's in a gang. And the kid's uncle's like, "What the hell did you just say?" And he's like, he's getting ready to go down. His dad kind of like, the dad kind of like calms him down. But then later on, the parents are like, why did he have that bike? We didn't get him that bike.
Yeah, because that was the only evidence for him being in a gang was, well, he's got a BMX, and all the gangs around here, they're all on the BMXs.
And she lies in the scene and says, we bought it for him. But later on, she's like, yeah, I don't know where he got that bike. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. So it does leave the implication that maybe he was in a gang. Like, it's left that as a possibility.
If not in a gang, then... Oh, no,
he definitely got that bike somewhere. Yeah,
there's a possibility now that he's in it. I mean, I thought you meant was that he was in a gang before, and I was going to say, well, not necessarily in a gang, but he, his father could tell he was hanging around with people that might lead to being him in a gang or something, and that's why they moved, and that's why he said, you're not going to go to that park.
No, I'm just thinking, like, because he has the bike and they didn't buy it, so it leaves the possibility that maybe he did get this through the gang.
And Joe, I think that's leading to, actually, in terms of the plot. I think when someone in the opposition finds that out, I think they're going to try and use that to make it seem like it doesn't matter that he's dying. Like, they're going to try and use
it as a way of burying it. It's like, well, it's fine. He was a bad person anyway. He's in a gang. Yeah,
which is the same thing you hear every time. Like, every time someone's shot, oh, well, he had something on his record. He did this, so, who cares he's dead? There's that... Yeah. That cynical thing.
It does feel like that's the easy way it's going to go at some point.
Yeah, which is fine, because if that's all the issues that the show wants to explore, then it's fine that it's setting that up. And I guess it's also good that it's doing that in the first episode, so it doesn't feel like it's blindsiding us with that.
No, it won't come out of nowhere, because it's properly seeded. So credit where it's due there.
Yeah, because that'd be an easy thing to do at the end of an episode, right? Like they're in court or something in episode 5, and the end of the episode is like, oh, we've got a shocking thing. He was in a gang. He might have had a gun on him. Like, yeah, because when cops try to disarm someone, they hit them with their car.
Yeah, exactly. but that's it now. So I think, oh, he was in a gang, and we can go, yeah, okay, that's believable. They've established that was a possibility.
Yeah, and then it'll be about the old, and obviously the defense is going to be like, well, I say defense, the prosecution in this case. I'm thinking defense because they're for our main characters. Therefore, they're defending
you're
our
used
ideas.
To that because that's typically what you see in TV.
Yeah, but and it'll be up to them to say, but hey, that doesn't
really matter. Has no impact on this.
So I kind of both like and dislike one of the scenes where Peter, like, he cares too much that he goes to the hospital to see him in the bed, and he's got his hood up, and his mother Latrice walks in and sees him there in the hood, and she's like, who are you? And she's like startled by it. He's like, oh, sorry, I've got the wrong room. And he goes out, and you can kind of tell she kind of has a suspicion, and she kind of gets who this might be.
Yeah.
And I kind of both like it and dislike it at the same time. I can't make up my mind.
Yeah, I like the idea that he's really struggling with this. He goes to actually face it for himself.
I like the look in her face. Again, it's the acting from her is fantastic. That look in her face is like, is that the man who either killed or...
Right, but at the same time, it's like, this feels too easy.
It feels too early.
Yeah.
Or it feels, I don't know. Like, I feel like the moment itself has a lot of possibilities, and it works well enough, but I feel like it's in the wrong place.
I agree. I think in a few episodes, when he's really been dwelling on it for some time, and then he finally works up the courage to go and see the kid, I think it works a lot stronger then.
And I guess maybe the another criticism you could have is that maybe his partners and all that who covered it up are maybe just too villainous.
They're too quick to do it, aren't they? Like, they just come out and go, yeah, it's fine, we'll do it.
It's like they've been doing this every week for...
It does feel like a really everyday occurrence to them, doesn't it?
Yeah. And even just the whole thing where his partner, like, intercepts that message that he gave the desk sergeant, and he's just kind of like, hey, don't go behind my back again. It really feels like and obviously there's a lot of parallels to make, and people do it all the time with, police being a gang themselves, but this really feels like a scene in a gang, like a gang TV show, where the gang leader's like, don't go behind my back again, and crushing the paper. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's enough in here to be a perfectly good TV show, but for me, it needed to be above and beyond for this sort of show.
I agree. That's another reason why we pushed it to well, what was the plan was the Monday, but obviously it's now Wednesday. We didn't actually expect to keep it on. We didn't expect to want to keep watching it, but we thought it was worth doing the first episode and just giving some thoughts on it
and give it a chance because it could have been above and beyond.
It could have
it's
been,
hard
yeah.
to tell from a trailer for a TV
It could have
show.
blown its way. I think the obvious example is Handmaid's Tale, where we weren't really sure how to feel going into it, and then it was like, oh shit,
One of the best shows last year.
Yeah, that's like, and there's a reason why that's some of our most watched content on the channel is Handmaid's Tale reviews. So there you go. That's 7 seconds. I'd say give it a try. I wouldn't dissuade anyone from trying it. I think it's, as we say, it's very competent. It could very potentially tackle these issues in a really smart and interesting way. It could also be super melodramatic, depending on where it goes.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell.
I definitely do feel though, if you like this sort of TV in general, absolutely check it out. You'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah. So there you go. That is 7 seconds. So by all means, let us know what you thought in the comments below. You may have already finished the whole season if you liked it and binge watched it over the last few days. So let us know how the whole thing was if you have finished it. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a link in the description and you can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV, guys. We'll see you next time.